All right, so today we're jumping into something truly special. It's a deep dive into Act 1 of a script that mashes up two absolute pop culture titans. You've got the hollowed, kind of spooky halls of Welton Academy from Dead Poets Society, and who else but the mystery-solving gang from Scooby-Doo.
So the story kicks off right at these imposing gates of Welton Academy. It's pouring rain, and Velma's spectrometer is apparently reading 60% existential dread. And that imagery tells you everything, you know? They're not just walking into a school, they're walking into this fortress of rigid, unbending tradition.
And this is the question that sets everything in motion. It's the central conflict right here. The script doesn't just, poke fun at Welton's stuffy world. No, it throws a literal force of nature at it. And this one question, it drives the whole bizarre, hilarious, and honestly surprisingly deep adventure that follows.
Now, the mystery itself is unlike anything the gang has ever faced. They've been called in by Headmaster Nolan to investigate a bunch of thefts. But we're not talking about a phantom in an old amusement park. Oh no. They're hunting someone who's stealing the lyrical remains, the actual literal skeletons of the world's most famous poets.
The sheer absurdity of this crime is what makes it so amazing. I mean, as Daphne puts it, it's not like you can pawn a stanza. This has nothing to do with money. Somebody is stealing the physical embodiment of poetry, the very marrow of the Romantic movement, right from under the school's nose.
And that brings us to our antagonist, who makes one of the greatest entrances you can possibly imagine. Just as the gang is trying to wrap their heads around how weird this case is, something very large and very heavy lands right on top of the mystery machine. And there he is, the silverback scholar. He introduces himself with the manic energy of a radio DJ, broadcasting live from the roof of their van. You can just hear the Robin Williams influence, right? It's just pure, unfiltered chaos unleashed on the prim and proper grounds of Welton. But see, he's not just some random monster of the week. In the very next breath, he delivers this iconic line from Dead Poets Society, but adds his own little primate twist. And that one quote tells you everything about his philosophy. He's not just a thief, he's this passionate, if kind of unconventional believer in the power of art. And he is just this incredible paradox, right? A 400-pound gorilla in a professor's tweed blazer, an intellectual who can quote Shakespeare one minute, and a powerhouse who can bend iron gates the next. He's literally the embodiment of everything Welton Academy tries to keep locked down. So with a suspect this strange, you just know the investigation is going to be equally bizarre. The gang isn't following footprints or tire tracks. They're following a trail of clues that feel less like someone trying to hide and more like someone putting on a performance to mock the whole institution. I mean, every single clue he leaves is this deliberate act of comedic rebellion. He is not trying to be stealthy. He is putting on a show. Every piece of evidence is basically a joke at the expense of Welton's super serious, self-important curriculum. Okay, but how he gets into the high-security vault, this is where his methods are just genius. No explosives, no crowbar. He uses what Velma calls a phonetic bypass. He performs a 20-minute stand-up routine so full of different voices and accents that he literally talks the high-tech lock into opening. It's improvisation as a superpower. So this brings us to the really important question. Why? Why is he doing all this? Well, the scholar isn't stealing for profit. He's waging a one-ape war against what he calls terminal boredom. He doesn't see himself as a villain. He sees himself as the only doctor who can cure Welton's soul-crushing stuffiness. And here you can see the two warring ideologies laid out perfectly. On one side, you have Headmaster Nolan's 4 pillars, which are all about tradition, discipline, basically preserving words under glass. And on the other, you have the scholar's chaotic vision of revolution, madness, and laughter. He doesn't want to just honor the dead poets. He wants to make their bones dance. And this quote right here, this is his entire mission statement. To him, that vault isn't a sanctuary. It's a tomb where poetry goes to be forgotten. His whole crime spree is an act of resurrection. It's this defiant, joyful, totally theatrical attempt to bring the words and the poets back to life. But his plan goes way beyond the skeletons. Velma figures out he's hacked into the school's mainframe and is downloading student records. He's looking for kindred spirits, for kids who have been flagged for unsanctioned creativity. So he's not just honoring the old Dead Poets Society, he's actively recruiting for a new one.
So all of this chaos, it's all building to the climax of Act 1. The scholar decides to stage his most outrageous performance yet, and he turns the entire school auditorium into his own personal stage for a grand finale.
He's gathered everyone for one last show. But when the gang finally bursts in to confront him, they find that his audience is, a little unconventional.
Yeah, his audience is the 12 stolen skeletons. He's dressed them all up in Welton blazers and little red berets, propped them up in the front row, and he's performing directly for them.
He then launches into this bizarre one-ape ventriloquist act, unfurls a massive banner announcing his takeover, grabs the master file, and then just vanishes in a puff of purple smoke, taking all 12 skeletons with him. He's heading for the old cave to begin his final ceremony.
The scholar seals the cave entrance behind him with this massive iron grate, locking the whole gang out. Time is running out, and there's only one way in. This tiny little exhaust vent, just barely big enough for, you guessed it, the most cowardly and most flexible members of the team.
And that's where Act 1 closes. On this question, a line adapted from the scholar's hero, Robin Williams. And it really is the central theme of the whole story. Is madness something you're supposed to cure, or is it a precious gift you can't afford to lose? It leaves the gang, and us, wondering if maybe the monster is the sanest one of them all.